And greetings and welcome to the QCast. This is season 4, episode 13. And folks, while the D3 Datacast guys schedule their shows all year long, they have a schedule that goes from now into the final day of the season. The QCast just rolls a little more spontaneously, unfortunately. And my guest today responded to an email this morning, despite preparing for a big basketball game Wednesday. Pat Juckem, the head men's basketball coach at WashU. Pat, thank you so much for responding to a same day opportunity to jump on the QCast. I didn't think you'd say yes, but you did, and I can't thank you enough. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. And Bob, you've actually gotten me out of doing dinner dishes tonight. So, I told my wife that I've got a very important interview to do and I can't clean up after dinner. And so she gave me one of those
Nice.
bewildered looks. So
Nicely played. That's nicely played. I don't know if coach's name is showing up on the screen as Gavin. It's a sure sign that he is not in the office. He's at home, practice, rushed home, QCast. He's not doing dishes. It is great to talk to you, Pat. It's been a little while. It was December 2021 when we talked last, and we'll kind of probably finish the QCast today with all of that. I've got some things I want to talk to you about at the end, but gosh, 4-0, and boy, your schedule has been awesome, man. Like you guys, this Scholars Classic. How cool was that thing? I first want to start off there. You play Swarthmore and Johns Hopkins, and you come out of there with 2 wins. Talk about the Scholars Classic and maybe whose idea that was, how it came about, and what that experience was like.
we certainly jumped into the deep end to the
Yeah,
season for sure. It was interesting. I think we've seen, even coming out of COVID pandemic, like more, I don't know, willingness for schools to be creative, right? And I think
right.
I feel that personally, like when it was taken away from us for a little while, like, if we have these opportunities, why not? If we
Yeah,
can make it happen. And so I think there's kind of the spirit behind it. But this was, I think it was driven even somewhat at the administrator level,
sure.
between some of the schools involved in the Scholars Classic. And when my athletic director pitched the idea, I said, absolutely. I mean, how cool. Now, as we were getting ready for those games, I was starting to question myself, but no, it was really, I think when you can be with your team, on the road, in this case in New York, for 3 days early in the season, and let alone in kind of a competitive
Yeah,
environment, cauldron too, it's a really good thing, irregardless of the results, in terms of just, building team and connection. And so it certainly was that. And then to be put into some really, really high leverage situations against 2 really, really good teams, irregardless of the records. We knew we were
right.
going to grow and learn a lot, but we're fortunate, obviously, to come out with 2 wins.
And you go into that tournament knowing that those 2 games are like enormous. They're the first 2 games you play, but in Division 3, as we always talk about, it doesn't matter when the heck you play the games, the first week and last week. And you're playing Swarthmore and Johns Hopkins, knowing that really good chance that they will be regionally ranked and that they'll have a good season and that the result is going to matter. And so I don't know, do your guys follow stuff? They know that, right? Because they knew those were big ball games, correct? This isn't 30 years ago when you don't know who's good across the country. Like they knew that was big, right?
They did. And I think I go back to when we disclosed that this is where we're opening, probably, I don't know when it was, a year earlier, or maybe it was in the off season. I can't remember exactly when. Said, hey, by the way, here's where we're starting our season. It certainly had all of our attention, that,
Right.
just, we need to be ready to go, because those are teams that are going to expose you
Right.
if you're not. And so I think no different than, I think in college football, when you see some of those high profile week 1 or week 0 games, it's like, you could play, middle, whatever, Tennessee, or you could play someone really, really good. It does, I think, impact the attention and just the focus. And I thought for our guys, it was, I mean, we knew when we get to New York, man,
Right.
it's real. And it was, and our guys, hadn't lit really, really well. And it was not just winning, but I think the whole experience was, NYU did a fantastic job hosting, first class. They have a new facility. So it was great to get not play them, but be in that facility, because we'll obviously circle our way back there in a couple months. But it was a really fun environment. We were very fortunate to be involved.
Well, you played a ton of high level D3 kids on those teams, and one I wanted to ask you about, just because this is someone that's making noise now and is going to make noise for 3 more years after this, and that's the kid at Johns Hopkins. I was pretty familiar with him. A real good friend of mine's son, David Kunka's son, Brady, played for Bennett, and so really familiar with was it Fagbemi? I can't remember. Lots of consonants and vowels going on. I can't get them all. But that kid, coach, he's having a freshman season to start with right now. He presents some unique challenges, and boy, for a freshman to be that composed, what was it like playing against him?
Well, I'd watched him play, and we've had obviously Jack Nolan, we've had Bennett. I have a current Bennett player in my program, and so and that's one of the really good programs out there, right? No matter year by year, different names, and I couldn't believe how his body's changed. Like he is really impressive. The changes he made physically from a summer ago to now was pretty amazing. And he's really talented. I'm struck too by just the number. And I went through this last year with the number of really, really good first year players I know in our league.
Yeah.
It seemed like we had some impact first year guys last year, and I went down, like everybody had him. Like that kid's really, really good. And
Sure.
he's the Ben Pierces, and they can go down the line. And it's like, dang, to see these guys, but to your point, like it's sort of unusual for guys in especially in these programs to be making that impact from the beginning. It speaks to I think just the quality of players coming out and what's happening. And it's obviously leading to just really, really good basketball at our level.
It is. It's always cool to see those rare freshmen, because even guys that end up being All-Americans, most of them don't make an enormous splash as a freshman, but the special ones do. Yeah. I remember watching Tyler Nading and Sean Wallace and Jack Nolan and Adam Douchis and Keelan Miljanovic. I think that's the ultimate test of how good Division III is these kids that are like Division III coups come in, and it's not like they set the world on fire most of the time, right? They kind of have to get in there and earn their keep. As there's a lot of people that think Division III is like glorified intramurals. Not anyone that watches it, actually, but when you see how hard it is for a freshman to come in and be a great player, I guess that says it all, doesn't it?
It really does. And to your point, it is so hard for those. They just don't know what they don't know. They might have some of the physical tools, but just to be able to, how hard you have to play and how dialed in you have to be 30 seconds at a time is just, it blows their mind. They've never had to do that before. And so you tend to see those flashes, right? Those flashes of, wow, that, but the ability to sustain that, and the strength and the toughness that's required to do that. For 5 months, while acclimating to college and everything else. It makes it pretty rare, but it's, all have to go through it, and it's a necessary part of the process.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mentioned you're 4-0. We talked about 2 of those. You come home. Coach, tell me about this Babson thing. I was at games of my own, and so it wasn't until late in the night that I click on a link from my guy Hilltopper, and it's like the last minute of this game, and I see that the Bears are down 5. And I still don't know how the heck that you got that thing to OT, but just talk through like the end of regulation there, what went down against Babson.
I actually, about an hour after the game, because we had to play in the championship game the next day, so we were with our staff reviewing some things, and I think I pulled up X, and I saw his post chronicling those last, I think it was 35 seconds of game time. And I had forgotten already like 3 key things that had happened during that stretch, that I'm like, we gave up a dunk, and ball got kicked into the back court with 16 seconds left. And it was more amazing to watch it the second time, quite honestly, to see like, how did we, and basketball it's incessantly fascinating. Like
Right.
You just don't know what could, I mean, I've coached a while and I don't know that I've ever been part of that. And I guess, very thankful that it worked in our favor this time, because I don't know that we could, I mean, just some things happened in our favor. The gods were with us at the end, I guess. But I tell you, the Babson team is really good. And
Yeah, they look good.
they were really, I mean, know that Steven has a great program, but yeah, it's fun. I mean, personally, for me I've coached now, first 4 games were against 4 teams I've never coached against. So that's just kind of stimulating as a coach to prepare for different styles. And I think ultimately, hopefully makes us better, and probably makes me a little bit better too.
Right.
But Babson is really impressive and has this Nate Amato. Man, if there's a better player around, I don't know. He is a handful. He is really, really good. And then his sidekick went for 40. So, but yeah, it was a fun game as I rewatched it yesterday. And I think I was sweating, I was like, I know the outcome, but dang, how did this work out?
Well, I went back and watched the second half just in preparation for this. And I mean, I was just sitting there shaking my head at that. I had seen that sequence in the tweet, but to watch it all play out with more context, absolutely unbelievable. You win the game in OT, then you beat Hanover by 15. Hanover is always a really hard team to play. They kind of grind you down. Doesn't matter who the coach is or what year it is. It's like it's always the same Hanover team. I think that was a really good. It's hard to beat Hanover by 15 points. You know that. I know that. It's like they're a tough team, and so that was a good win. Sitting at 4-0, I mean, you got to be sitting here thinking, like, take a deep breath, heading into this next stretch, and feeling great about being 4-0 at this point. I mean, that's a layup question, but it's got to feel pretty good, huh?
Well, it certainly beats any alternative.
Right.
Again, as you look at, as I was looking into our season in these games, and like, man, these are, we could play really well and lose any or all of them, and that's, I mean, so yes, we're very, we're pleased, but as we told our guys tonight, like, we have to be better on Wednesday than we were certainly this weekend. And
I hope you're way worse, to be honest, Coach. I hope you stink. I mean, we just got to say it like it is here on the QCast.
Sure. Appreciate the transparency. But you really do need the games, because you don't learn. And I mean, practices, we all coaches, we love practice, but you don't learn as much. You need to go and play, and especially you play good teams.
Yep.
You grow, you learn, you get exposed, and certainly that's going to happen again on Wednesday. And that's where ultimately these are, these non-league games are to prepare us for league play, and hopefully beyond. We'll see if we do enough, but they're really, we take so much away from them, and they've come, pretty fast and furious here for us these last 2 weekends. So we can't take a breath, unfortunately, because we got a really, really good team coming to the field house on Wednesday.
And we'll talk about that game in just a couple. I want to talk about your team. It's, it's amazing. I watched 2 of your games in preparation for this, and it's like same old WashU team. The guys have graduated, and here's the same guys still on the floor. Just running really good offense and playing great defense and rebounding on the season. Just, my takeaways is you're shooting it pretty well. You're shooting at 48%. You're holding opponents under 40%. Great. Plus 10 on the boards, standard WashU on the boards. You're only giving up 66 a game. The one area that I would expect to turn around, and I'm expecting it's going to happen Wednesday now that I'm quoting this, is you're not shooting the 3 well at all. It's 29%. I can't remember that from a WashU team, which is why the law of averages is going to get me Wednesday. I know this, but you got to be pretty happy overall. We'll get into some players, but I don't know. You look at your season box score through 4 games against 4 good teams, and there's a lot of good stuff there, Pat.
Yeah, there is, especially when you factor in the quality of opposition, and that's, I think we've played some very distinct styles and different type, Hopkins and Swarthmore, present very different challenges, and especially back to back. And then in Babson and Hanover did as well this past weekend. That's that's kind of the fun thing when you play in these tournaments. And I know that you were at the one you were at, like
Yeah.
contrasting styles, right?
Oh,
And teams from different regions. And it really is, again, very stimulating and very, very fun. And I think really creates a lot of growth when you have, because, you know, you get into, well, league play and you're going to play contrasting styles. And if you get beyond that, you're going to play that well. So hopefully you've got a little bit of a, you know, encyclopedia of experiences. But, you know, I think the really good teams typically are, you know, they have a couple homer. They're, you know, obviously this isn't rocket science that I'm going to share, but they're really staunch defensively and they rebound the basketball and they, you know, take good shots and they're pretty efficient. And, you know, they're not just one thing, right? They don't,
right.
they got to be the teams that end up winning the big prizes, do it on both ends. You know, they're complete. And so, I do think so far we've been pretty complimentary in that regard. But we have a long ways to go too. As every coach would say in November, if we're peaking on November 20th, then that's scary. And I know we're not. We've got a long ways to go.
You've got a really talented group here, and you know I follow the recruiting scene quite a bit with the Titans, and therefore I end up kind of understanding who some of the guys are in Illinois. You recruit a lot of guys from Illinois. You got some from Wisconsin. You recruit nationally, obviously, but you guys have a very talented team of high level Division III recruits, as you always do. Want to talk about some of these guys? It's really a nicely constructed team. You know, Yogi's your point guard and Hayden Doyle's your two. Will Grodzinski is a fantastic wing player. My favorite player on your team I want to talk about is Drake Kinsvater. I think I'm saying the Kinsvater. Apologies to Drake, but I want to talk about him in a second. Then Calvin Caprell, this 6'8" kid. It's like you just get all the perfect little parts here and you have a good bench. Let's talk about the Drake for a second. 18-8. Now, I think I liked this guy before it was cool to like him. He's the leading scorer now. Everyone likes the leading scorer. But 6'6" forward. He's kind of like a 3 or a 4. He does a little bit of everything. He's active. He's a rebounder. He can score. Talk about this kid, Kinsvater, and tell me how the heck to pronounce his name as you do it, please, Pat.
Yeah, Kinsvater.
Kinsvater. Okay, got it. Kinsvater.
And yeah, Drake he's really come into his own. He you know, he's part of that junior class, that's the COVID class. You know,
Right.
I never watched that young man play 1 minute of live basketball.
Wow.
Before he came to WashU. And so we all have these kind of crazy stories of this class, this junior class.
Yeah.
You know, like the crazy things we did in visits, and we couldn't meet him on our, you know, whatever. So
Yeah.
he's part of that. So he was, we knew was a really athletic kid. We could see that on film, and he played in a really, really good league in the Dallas Frisco area, you know, down by you. And yeah, he's really been, he's in the great thing is he's a sponge, and he really can get a lot better yet. He's got a lot. I think he's just kind of scratching the surface and
Yeah, he's good.
learning. He came as a really this athletic kid that just does, we call it crazy Drake things. Like he just does Drake things, and you know, gets tips and deflections and scores awkward layups, and you know, but he's a special athlete. And as he's now kind of refined and really learned how to play, and you know, I'm excited to see because I don't think he's anywhere near his ceiling yet. So he's, hopefully we can really tap into that over the next this season and beyond.
And what I like about him is he's gotten better every year. You know, some guys are so talented. They just come in like Jack Nolan. I remember his freshman year just was so good right away. And this guy keeps getting better. It's almost like you watch him and then you watch 5 games later and he's better. You got to have a soft spot in your heart for guys that work that hard and continue to progress, right? I mean, that's got to be the coach's dream.
Absolutely. And that, I think ultimately, I think the guys that are, in my experience, that become the best at this level are the ones that have that insatiable love and passion, right? They don't just like it, they love it.
Yeah.
And then the really special ones live it. And you know, I'm fortunate we've got a group of guys that really are in those upper categories. I'm really, really pleased with that. With our group, is they eat, sleep, and drink it. And, they've got a lot of other things on their plate here, but basketball is really important to them each. And so that's certainly, that's what you love. I mean, to love guys that just are
Right.
hungry, and, they're whatever, you want them to do and work on, they'll do it. And they're ask good questions. And so that's, I really like that about our team and how it's constructed. And Drake is certainly embodies that for sure.
Another member of that junior class is Hayden Doyle, who's having a monster year. I had to look at this twice. Is he really averaging 8 rebounds a game? Is he 16, 8, and 4? Is that correct?
Sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah, 8.
He's very proud of that 8 rebounds.
He should be. This is a 6'1" kid, QCast listener. This 6'1" kid averaging 8 rebounds a game, along with 16 and 4 assists. I have a really good friend of mine, John Murray, lives in Wisconsin. When Hayden Doyle committed, he said, he goes, this is going to be a great player at WashU. And it's turned out that way. So he's in his 3rd year now of being a good player. This kid is really talented. Talk a little bit about Hayden Doyle.
Yeah. Hayden is he's a really complete player. And he's just, he's came from a great high school program, really well coached. So, he's been coached up well. He's just got an infectious personality. He keeps things, he's a natural leader, but has a great feel for when, how to talk to his teammates, how to challenge them. He's uber competitive, but also just has a fun personality. So he's got a little bit of that it factor. And that's really, he kind of, for his first year, we really needed someone to help stabilize our team, along with when we had Jack Nolan back that year.
Right.
And him to be able to come in and really from the very beginning earn and really help that team. Again, unusual, I think, for kids to be able to do that, but he could. And now he's operated at sometimes as our primary handler. He plays alongside another point guard and Yogi Olaf. So to have a couple playmakers on the floor certainly, it gives us some, just some potency, I think, in terms of decision making and to have someone who can, not only can score himself, but can make guys better too. He's making really good decisions. I'm really pleased with his decision making is really improved considerably, and he's doing a good job. And I expect even more out of him hopefully the rest of this year.
Isn't that such a huge advantage to have 2 guys that can handle the ball in the backcourt? I was watching Redlands play, and by the way, you need to watch them because they're scary. It's scary what he's got going on at Redlands already. But against Redlands, you've got to have 3 ball handlers at least to have a chance. And you very often have had 2 guys in the backcourt. You have Yogi and Hayden that they both can shoot it, both can dribble it and pass it. That's got to make an offense run a lot better when you have that kind of talent out there on the perimeters. Am I saying that correct?
Yeah, I think it gives you just overall, decision making. The ball's in the hands of those guys a lot just by nature, and guys who are used to having in their hands. And I think what their growth is to learn how to play off each other too. I mean, they're both natural. They're very unselfish players, and kind of having that understanding of, when, I need to, assert myself a little bit more versus, set other guys up. And so much of basketball now it's about making reads. It's about, can we get, 2 guys on the basketball and draw help and, make appropriate read when that occurs. So it's certainly a nice thing. And the thing that I, with both those guys, they're both pretty good defenders too, and that's, I mean, we see now, as this game has evolved, the shot making, the ball handling, the creativity, if you can't guard the basketball,
right,
you got no shot. Because everybody's got players that are explosive and creative. And then, you in pick and roll, they can, do all, it's like, you have to be able to defend those really good guards. And you referenced, Redlands. I haven't watched them, but I sure know enough about Eric's teams to know what they probably look like and what I'm hearing. And so it's as much the offensive part. It's the guys that can then defend too and stay in front of the basketball. That makes, if you got that, then you've got a real chance.
Right. Yeah. One of your, I can't remember. I feel like Calvin Caprell wasn't completely in the middle of things last year. He's a 6'8" sophomore center, averaging 11 and 3. You had a couple other big guys last year, but he's been really good for you, really solid. And then I think what most great teams have is depth. And when he leaves, then you have Jake Davis, who's a 6'8" freshman coming in, averaging 5 and 4. So you add up their production for 40 minutes and you got a good thing going at the 5. Maybe just talk about your 2 5s in Caprell and Davis.
So last year we kind of had it by committee. We had and Calvin was, in that mix, but we had a couple seniors and some older guys. And so he would get some at times. I tell you, there was many days in practice where we're like, man, he might be, no one can stop him. Maybe I should be playing a lot more. But he had a really good off season. He really, he's from the Bay Area, and he came back and just was so much stronger and, and confident too. Those sophomores come back with a year under their belt, kind of knowing the rhythms of the whole experience athletically, academically. And, I think he's just really sure of himself. And then to have, to have some success, like have success in games, like what that can do for one's confidence, right? And so he's had success, and we've got a nice little combination with Jake Davis, who's a freshman also from the Bay Area, who is doing a really nice job. And then another George Gale, another freshman who's can kind of toggle between if we want to play smaller at the 5 or has been playing some more at the 4. So we do have a nice little rotation there. You need them. You need, and I know certainly on the next game, because Ron keeps peeling out big guys left and right too. So we're going to need all of them. But it gives you a presence, and that's something noticing when we were playing Johns Hopkins and Swarthmore too. I mean, just when particularly Hopkins, 2 6'8", athletic guys that are in the paint and challenge every shot at the rim and make it really hard. Like that's a blessing when you have, someone like that can guard people and can maybe be a little offensive threat. That's really, I mean, that's what typically the best teams have, right? They have
absolutely.
That's an impediment. It makes it a little harder to score on.
We talked about Yogi a little bit, but 10, 5, and 5. I mean, every coach in the country would take 10 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists from the point guard. Yogi's really a very steady, solid point guard that makes a lot of plays. He was a big recruit for you. I know a lot of people wanted Yogi, but he's been a good player now. He's just a sophomore, right? He had a great freshman year last year. He's a 6'3", so he's got great size for a guard. Just talk a little bit more about Yogi Olaf, if you would.
Yeah, he's got just an incredible feel for the game. That's when I remember watching him in AAU, and I think it was again kind of in that a little bit of that coming out of the COVID time. So a lot of it was just watching live streams, but I just was always fascinated by he plays with spirit, and he has great feel, and he's just a super humble young man, but on the floor between the lines, he's got a little that edge, and which the good ones have. But he's really another, one of those guys that freshman to sophomore year, like kids take a little jump and they realize, and I know you always post this, like, hey, get in the weight room.
Absolutely.
And he recognized, he played a lot for us last year, but he also recognized, man, I got to get a lot stronger if I'm going to, if I really going to assert myself. And he did. And so had a great summer and has come back and is a tremendous leader and humble and just someone that I think guys love to play with. I mean, just he's super unselfish, but, he's asserting himself more offensively, and I'm really excited about that because we need him to score it too.
The guy for me that jumps out is among all these guys that probably shouldn't be in Division III, but the guy that jumps out to me is how did they get this guy is Will Grodzinski, because it's like a 6'5" or 6'6" wing player that just shoots the heck out of it. And I always tell people I have all these web stream things stuck in my head. Did you guys beat Emory last year at Emory? Did you play well? I remember him making some shots at Emory at some point. Am I remembering the right thing?
Yes.
Yes. At Emory, just this 6'6" kid pulling up, and he's got the most perfect looking, shoots it way up here. It looks like a shooter. And this kid is talented. He's just a sophomore. He's averaging 7 and 4. I think by the time the season's over, that might be more like 14 and 8. But just talk about Will Grodzinski, if you would.
Yeah, Will is part of that. We had a small sophomore class. They're sophomores now, freshman class last year, just 3 guys, but we felt like we hit 3 really good ones, and Yogi and Calvin and Will, and they're roommates, and they're just super tight, and they all love the game, and they all have worked really, really hard this offseason to get better and get stronger. They're very serious about it. And Will, another one, he's got this lanky frame, and he realized, especially on the defensive end and rebounding, because he's a natural, shooter and can put the ball in the basket, but, just becoming that complete guy, and really was excited this weekend. He rebounded the ball. I think he had 9 rebounds against Babson on Friday, and it just did a great job finishing some play. So just not being one thing and one,
right,
more than just a guy that can shoot it and score it. And he takes a lot of pride. And if he's going to play the 3, you're going to have to guard. Some nights you're guarding those 6'2",
right.
You're having to get through ball screens, and then some nights you're, there's a lot of variability in the types of players you're playing, but he's really improved that part of his game, and he can really get it going. That Emory game you mentioned, we were kind of down and out, and
right,
playing Emory had a really nice zone that they had kind of and he just came in and I think knocked down 4 or 5 threes in a pretty short span.
That's what I'm remembering. Yeah, just a bunch of threes down the stretch to win the game. It was unbelievable.
The only good decision I made was we subbed him in and we got him on the floor. There was no great tactical thing going on there. It was just a talented kid that got on the floor. My coach sister's like, we got to score a little bit more. Let's get Will on the floor. And, he made it happen. But he's matured, and he's, our whole team, like you said, we haven't shot the ball from 3 well, and it's, a low sample size. We got a bunch of good shooters, so I'm not overly concerned. We're taking, for the most part, good shots, and that's just, hopefully balances out over time.
Yeah, starting sometime next week. I hope you guys start shooting the daylights out of it, Coach. The final guy I want to talk to you about, there's other guys we could, but a guy that stood out to me off the bench was this Kyle Beeden kid, 6'1" junior. He's averaging 6 points, 2 rebounds. He's done a lot of good things when he's been in there for you. He's a junior that I don't remember, which probably to me means or suggests that this is a guy that's kind of grinded his way into time, right? I think he was behind a bunch of guys, and now he's playing all of a sudden. He's playing well. I like these kind of guys. I like these stories. So talk about Kyle Beeden.
I appreciate you asking about Kyle, because just like you, I love this resiliency and perseverance, right? And just he's a junior who's has had to behind some guys and just wasn't quite ready, and and just continue to dedicate himself to the areas that needed to be improved. And I think we statted all of our those those 8 practices we got this fall, and we statted all of our 5-on-5 really throughout the preseason. He was our leading scorer through really through the basically our preseason, and and then he broke his nose. You'll see him playing in a mask. He's he's kind of a kamikaze in some regards.
Right.
So he kind of likes playing with a mask on, and he broke his nose. He didn't bother him. I'll throw a mask on. He actually reset the nose himself.
Wow.
So he's one of those kind of guys. But it's a great. I'm just really, really pleased for him because he's worked hard. He's absolutely done what you need to do, and he was a great teammate in the time that he wasn't getting that playing role, and in an era where sometimes guys will move on, and that's okay. He's hung in there, and he's a vital part, and he's a really good player, and he's I'm excited to see where it goes because he's really carved out a nice niche with our team.
Yeah, I always think about like the Titans and why they're consistently a good team, and obviously it's because they have some star players. But I think it's the Mike Maybergers of the world, who for 2 years came off the bench and for 2 years was a JV player, and he had to work to get on the floor, or Andy Stempel or Matt Hoder. I mean, when you can roll these guys in as juniors, or even, I mean, we've had guys that have been 1 year. Brady Knight, Brady Knight played on our Final Four team in 1996. He was a varsity guy really for his senior year. He was the starting point guard. And isn't that huge, Coach, when guys, program guys, they buy into the system, they work hard, they want to play, they're behind guys, they work harder. I mean, as a coach, that's got to be pretty cool stuff, right?
That embodies everything you hope your program to be in that situation, because it is, you only can, you have 200 minutes to play with, and right. And we have, and good teams typically have guys that are capable that are not playing, are not playing as right. much. And but you know what, you need them, and I think the competition in the program is really healthy. And then there's just so much, right? I mean, the nature of our game is it's physical, it's long, it's grinding. There's going to be illnesses, there's going to be injuries, there's going to be opportunities. It's a matter Absolutely. Of when, and when that opportunity comes, be ready. In the meantime, be an awesome teammate and embrace the team role.
Absolutely.
And, but you're right. I think, and I think those guys that persevere and then break through, it just says so much. Like, I bet dollars to donuts those young men go on to be really, really successful. And
every single one of them I can think of is a successful person today. That's a great point. Every one of them.
Absolutely. Because they, that's just their nature. They stick with things. They work harder. They buy in. And, if you can be that, you're going to be really successful well beyond athletics.
Before we talk about the game Wednesday, I wanted to talk about someone in your program in particular that I've been a big fan of for a long time, and that's your broadcaster, Jay Murry. I don't know when Jay came onto the scene. It seems like it's at the start of the WashU streams. I remember him giving nicknames to Bob the Builder and Toth the Terrible, and I was like, who is this guy? I couldn't stop watching him. He's just got such a unique, I don't know what an inflection and the way he delivers, but what this guy does for you guys, Coach. I mean, every D3 program needs a Jay Murry out there. What a huge advantage it is to have him doing what he's doing for you and giving you all that credibility. What's Jay mean to the Bears?
Oh, he's unbelievable. I mean, I think we have the best in the business.
He's good.
And his versatility to go and call an Elite Eight soccer game and
right.
then come on over and, knock out a basketball game like it's nothing and do football in between is insanely talented. And you're right. I really enjoy when I can hear those snippets of him that are posted.
Right.
We put a montage of, and maybe we'll get to this, of Justin Hardy dunks.
Yeah.
And posted at one point. And there was some lines that Jay had. The blunt force trauma
right
was one that, on one of classic Justin's dunks, and like, oh my God, that's so good. And he's we're so fortunate to have Jay, and his just what he brings, his professionalism, but then also his like distinct style and creativity too.
Very distinct. Yeah. If those who haven't watched the WashU game, you need to check it out because Jay is like he's just so unique in how he delivers the game, and it's fun. And so shout out to Jay. I'm just such a huge fan of his, respect him so much. So Wednesday we've got our rivalry again here, Coach. I keep waiting for someone to make a case that there's another non-conference rivalry that's better. I think everyone just conceded that because I'm not in any Twitter wars about it. So I'm just going to say it's been approved. Illinois Wesleyan versus WashU. Two great programs, always an important game. So coming into this thing, the Titans have a couple losses already, 2-2. They've played great in stretches and not so great in other stretches. What have you seen? Obviously, you're not going to give us your game plan, but what have you seen from the Titans as you've prepped for this game? What's your opinion of this Ron Rose team?
You made the comment about our team kind of like being the same, I feel the same way about Ron's. Like the names may change, but man, they look the same.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just one athletic, big, good looking player after another. Like who's that? Who's this? Look up this kid. Oh, I know that kid. It's like there's a bevy of them. So they're just they're super impressive. And they they have 2 losses, but their 2 losses are to 2 pretty darn
good teams. Yeah,
could have been wins very easily.
Yeah.
They were right there at the very end in both of those games. So that's basketball. It can go either way in those. So now it's a team that has the look of one that's going to compete for their top of that league and beyond. They certainly have with obviously getting Yoder back, getting a great point guard back. That makes such a big difference. It makes everybody better, and you can tell the difference a little bit just with him on the floor, having a seasoned high level point guard is with everything else that team has. Yeah, they're really good, and I know we've got our hands full for sure, and then some.
It's kind of a weird day and a weird time. That's just the way the timing worked out. It's the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. I think the game's at 3 p.m. So I'm guessing your students have all headed out of campus at that point. I'm guessing we're down to the parents and the fans that come to the game. I'm guessing there might be 100 people in the gym, unless I hope there's 1,000. But I'm thinking it's going to be a quiet gym except for the energy, and the guys will still get up for it. I mean, this is our guys want to win this game. Your guys, they know that this is a great rivalry, and I don't think there'll be any question about intensity. Pat, is that fair to say?
Oh no, not at all. So there are plenty of great seats available, and tickets are free. So
that's great.
Come on over if you're in the St. Louis area.
One of the cool things about this matchup, I feel like it's like a lot of times when you go play a game or we go play a game, there's like our teams will have a mismatch somewhere, but our teams are usually constructed so similarly. Like a Nick Roper, he's a 6'8" 3-man, but you guys have Grodzinski, and it's like we've got big guys, you have big guys, we have a great bench, you have a great bench. Seems like when these two teams play it comes down most of the time to execution. It comes down to who's making shots, who's getting rebounds, 50-50 balls. Personnel wise, it seems like it's often very close when these two programs get together.
That's been I have relatively short history, but in my time, it certainly feels that way.
Yeah.
It's just, it's just it's a really, and I appreciate Ron. We just know that this is a game we can count on every year. We're going to find a time, and I'm not sure how we landed on this date. I think I can't remember, but it's a little, it belongs in feast week, right? And this is a great week of college basketball with everything that's going on. So it's, I think, fitting that our game is slotted in there as well. But it's a game, it's going to prepare you for the best team. It's one of the best teams and what's the best games on your schedule. It's going to prepare you for the most important games in your season. Certainly has, the regional aspect of it is, part of it as well, but I don't think that's not on anyone's mind when we're playing. We're just, we're trying to get a rebound and get a stop and make a basket or two. And But I really, I mean, again, I have great respect for the program and Ron, and just he's such a high character man, and so it's just good competition. It's the way it should be.
It'll be
Quite
a
honestly.
lot of fun just based on I flew up last year to the game. This will be the first one I've missed in a while, just because I'm going to be up at my mom's for Thanksgiving. We'll have it on the big screen though. We'll be enjoying the Titans there Wednesday at 3, playing the Bears. I'll be up in Batavia, Illinois, watching that. Just a couple more things, Pat, and then I'll let you go. I know it's late. I know you've had a busy day. And the UAA, I got to ask you about the UAA. The last couple of years, in particular, the UAA is always a top 2-3 conference, but like last year was crazy. This year, I think's crazier. I want to say right now in the Massey, and like granted, the Massey's not really mathematically figured out yet, but I think every UAA team is in the top 50 as we speak. Something crazy. I didn't know how to sort my ballot. I can't even remember what order I landed on. I think I had NYU, WashU, Emory, Case, and then I couldn't figure out what to do. But Pat, this league you're in, like seriously, good luck. Good luck with this thing this year. Talk about this crazy University Athletic Association.
I guess our strength of our schedule in non-conference has had me so distracted. I haven't really had a chance to even think about or contemplate what we have got coming after January 1st. But the league is, when I think Carnegie was picked last in our preseason poll.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if that's the 8th place team, then holy heck. Yeah. Again,
so they went out. The 8th place team in your league went out and to the Pac Northwest and beat Whitman and Whitworth, right? Yeah. Am I saying that right? That happened.
Yeah, they did, and I think fairly. I'm convinced. I don't know. The scores looked like there was some separation, but they're I don't know. Every league that I've coached in, I've always felt it's the best league because there's such familiarity and it's tough in your league. But the depth of talent and the quality, and certainly the grad transfer pieces.
Oh yeah, that's a thing.
As a thing, and it not right or wrong. It's just it is the reality. Has made a big difference too, and it's going to be really. What do we have? 5. I think we had 5 teams get in last year into the tournament.
Got it, absolutely.
So it does feel like every game you play in the league is like a tournament game. It really does kind of have that feel.
Yeah.
And it's awesome and exhausting at the same time. And so I will say this, we're going to be tested. Our schedule prepares us. I mean, that's partially why we do it. We are playing really, really good teams in hopes that prepares us. Cause man, when we get into league, it's nothing but, and we had a ton of, you referenced a couple of them. We had so many, 1 possession games and down to the wire. And, I think that's just the balance of the league. And,
right.
Just little details can make a difference between, winning it, not, or moving on. So, it's a lot of fun. When you're in the midst of a trip to Carnegie and Case and you're dead dog tired. I don't say with fun, but it's certainly as a competitor, this is what we signed up for.
It's really just incredibly talented. Yeah, I've watched NYU, and that Spencer Friedman kid, to me, is the best point guard in Division III. He's like 32 years old or something. This kid, he's fantastic. He's unbelievable. They got Coach K's grandson, and they have some transfers that have added size. They're athletic. They're big now. In addition, have a great guard play. We just talked about all your guys. Emory has this Pierce kid and Cale Martins. They got a good freshman, Ethan Faust, who's really good. You look at what like Chicago has a talented roster. Carnegie Mellon, this RJ Holmes is unbelievable. Case Western Reserve has like 11 first-team All-American transfers from all over the country. So that they have that going on. Rochester's got a new cast in there. They're talented. Like, I know I'm leaving out some teams, but the talent in the UAA and the 5th-year thing is playing a big factor in all leagues, including the UAA. So I encourage everybody to watch I mean, every UAA game is crazy big because of how many teams are in the national conversation this year. Pat, last time we talked was December 2021. I remember one of the questions I asked you was, hey, I've got some word that there's a health issue with one of your players. And I don't know if you want to address it or not. And I could tell that I made you a little bit, not uneasy, but you just, out of respect, you said, that's really not my health update to provide. And the next day, after the QCast aired, I get this email from Justin Hardy, and it says, if you want to tell my story, I'd be glad to do it with you. And we did that QCast, which I'll never forget. I'll never forget staring at the screen and trying to stare somewhere else because this kid's talking about having stage 4 stomach cancer, and had this smile on his face, and I couldn't process it. The whole Justin Hardy story, obviously inspirational, sad. Talk about just kind of how your program has processed that, and kind of the lasting memory of Justin.
Yeah, it's heavy, but it is. We are we feel his presence, and certainly within we still, our juniors and seniors played with Justin, and so it's I think the lessons and his teaching and his he really tasked our guys with carrying that forward, not just for WashU basketball, but for much bigger than that. And so most days there's something, there's a reference, there's something. Last year, we would, as we're preparing for games, you always kind of look back. If you played that team the year before, you'd let's take Illinois Wesleyan. One of his great games is his last year was that game. And he, it probably was when he was at his physical best that year. He was an incredible dunker, explosive. And one thing that he lost was his ability to jump, and it really bothered him. And as we were leading up to that game, he came in and we were doing just a kind of a easy workout, and he picked up a ball and he just went up and dunked with ease. And I'm like, Justin, he goes, Coach, I'm getting my hops back. I'm gonna get one down. And he got one in that game. He had
an incredible, a highlight film dunk, right down the middle of the lane over Matt Larrett's. It was crazy.
Yes. And I lost it. I just absolutely lost it. And as did our whole team, because we're filled with so many. They should make a movie. They absolutely should make a movie about this young man and what he did and how he did it, and what he has left behind, and how he's continuing. One of the great things is with his family started, and I know you've done a really good job of promoting the Hardy Strong Foundation, and Bob and Karen and Jackie and Nathan are behind that. And the foundation is almost a year old and is really off to a great start, and his impact. They're raising money for research and testing and giving out scholarships. We're going to have a mental health professional full-time in our building at WashU for our athletes, sports psychologists, partially because of Justin.
Wow.
You can go on and on how he's impacted so many people while he was here and now after that. I think that's truly, it helps with kind of wrapping our head around why this happened, but to know that there's so much good and so much, and I know we all feel a responsibility to carry on, that it's awesome responsibility, but it's a responsibility to carry on, his legacy, for the rest of our lives.
It was the couple things that just little things that I remember after the QCast we did. We started texting all the time, and he'd give me the scouting report on games, and he was starting to obviously not do very well in terms of his health, as that season went on. And like towards the end of the season, when he was playing just a little bit or not able to, I remember he sent me a text. He's like, "Hey, just want you to know I'm not going to play tonight, but don't tell McGrath. I want him to still prep for me." And I'm like, I just thought that was the greatest thing. I just, to this day, like, I have all his texts and I laugh about that. Just like don't tell McGrath though. I'm like, don't worry, dude. I'm not telling McGrath. And then I had a hole in one on March 31st of that year, and he sends me I tweeted it, and he sends me a text. He says, "Hey, dude, congrats on the hole in one. It's pretty big news here in St. Louis. Everyone's talking about it." And I just thought it was the greatest thing. I'm like, there's no one in St. Louis talking about this hole in one, but I appreciate it. And the final thing that I'll never forget, in all seriousness, is when we were getting ready for the QCast, he says, I only want to talk about my diagnosis, not my prognosis. And I said, and I was just I was too naive. I just said, well, yeah, okay, but like, why is that? And he goes, because I want this to be about how I'm living, not how I'm dying. And to this day, I will never, ever, ever forget him saying that. That was in the before we hit record. I'm looking straight at him when he says this, and I'm like, holy crap. So just a shout out to Bob and Karen and the family, and you guys continue to be in the thoughts of everyone in Division III. Your son is very inspirational, and we'll never forget him. So, Pat, I want to kick it to you. I don't know if anything we didn't get to or anything you'd like to say to the Bears fans, to D3 fans, as we start to wrap up the QCast. Let me toss it over your way.
I just think D3 basketball is in such a good place right now. There are so many in a time where athletics, especially at the highest level, is a little insane. There is some sanity and things in the proper perspective.
Yeah,
but they're the quality of teams, the quality of players. I think if it's ever been better, I don't know when it's been, but there is just I just think the quality and the competition is at such a high level right now. And again, I think, I appreciate, and I'm a D3 lifer as a player, as a coach. I don't know anything else. Don't want to know anything else, but honestly. And I'm just so proud to be part of a small part of what I think is some of the best things in athletics. And that is Division III, and specifically Division III basketball. So shout out to, all, and Bob, you're a big driver of this, but the community, I think you all have had such a huge impact on improving and getting, and just, so much now is just awareness of, there are really, I mean, you got to be really good to play at any of these schools.
Absolutely.
And what a great opportunity. And if you're lucky enough to be able to do it, it's going to be one of the best things in your life. Whether you're an all conference player, score 1,000 points, or don't ever get to play, when the ball stops, you've got this incredible support system the rest of your life. It doesn't get any better than that. That's priceless. And I think to be a small part of that is, I'm really thankful.
Well, what I really like is that we were at the Great Lakes Invitational, and then a good chunk of the little, D3hoops.com Twitter crew was there. A lot of us were there, and it just reminded me of how special it was, because just the perspective on, being more than basketball, and the fact that you have people chipping in together to kind of promote the level. It's a really cool thing that's playing out. You and I talked about that, the QCast in 2021. We talked about this community, and the community is bigger now than the last time we talked. There's more people doing more stuff. So shout out to all those people. You know who you are. We appreciate you. Pat, I won't see you in person. I feel like I'll see you at some gym at some point before this year's over. I'm almost positive of it. It could be in Fort Wayne. I mean, I've seen your team play, and when the ballot comes out next, I'm going to probably have you like 3 or 4 or something like that. I mean, it could be Fort Wayne, but I hope you guys have a great rest of the season. I mean, I hope you play just god awful Wednesday. I just really do. My Titans need a little help. We need a W. And in all seriousness, you're an awesome coach. You're building a great program, and you do it with first class. So I really appreciate it, Pat. And thanks for doing the QCast on such short notice.
Bob, my pleasure. appreciate all that you and the crew do to promote Division III basketball. It's absolutely a beautiful thing.
We appreciate it, folks. That's season 4, episode 13. That's Pat Juckem, the head men's basketball coach of WashU. Big game against the Titans on Wednesday. Check it out, guys. 3 p.m. at the Field House. Thanks, Pat. See you, bud.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you so much. That was great. Really appreciate that, my friend.
My pleasure. My pleasure. You do a heck